says that she was unable to join. This is fantastic content, isn't it? There we go.
Does that work?
Yes.
Is that work?
I've just been wittering on, filling the space as ever, every single time. Yeah, thanks. Just, I was running a little bit dry towards the end there. Like, oh. Anyway, thank you for joining us. I did give you a little intro, but why don't you introduce yourself, because you're probably much better at it than I am.
Sorted out there. Hi, I'm Georgie, and I run GoW, GoS, which is a company that aims to encourage and inspire people to get outdoors with their kids and just have a little bit of fun, really. To put it simply, that's all we need to do.
I mean, I've been following your account for a while. I guess within the Wild Strong context, we kind of do that with adults. So we get adults outside, but I also have my own small children. And so I'm always looking for little ideas to kind of get them outside more. And a lot of your stuff around the kind of micro adventures and stuff that really resonates with me, because I feel like we've just come out of the tunnel, of the small baby tunnel. So they're 4 and 6 now, so they're, you know, they're out of nappies. We don't need a pushchair anymore. We're on bikes. We've sorted that. But the ideas around the kind of daily little micro adventures would be good to hear a bit about, if you want to kick off with that, just because that's a bit that I really like.
And that's kind of almost the fundamental of what we do, because I'm based near Bristol, so yes, we do a lot around where to go, where's cool to go, but there's a lot of that. And actually, since COVID and all the lockdowns and everything, I realized it was more about finding your own space and doing your own thing, and how going outdoors isn't about packing up the car, driving somewhere like a National Trust place. National Trust is great, but you know, it's not necessarily inclusive for everyone. It's not accessible every day. You have to pay an entrance fee. There's a gift shop, a loo, and a very clear defined set of what you do when you're there. And I started thinking, well, that's not really what going outdoors is. There's a sense of freedom to being outdoors, and kids need freedom, I think, and need a bit of flexibility. And we all need the outdoors to be easy and accessible, and something, if you've got 10 minutes, half an hour, 3 hours, there needs to be stuff to do. Let's go and fill that time going and having some fun. So I started coming up with these kind of mini adventure ideas, or doorstep adventuring, the type of thing where wherever you live, whether you're urban, suburban, rural, just some really fun little mini adventures to do with the kids. So even if it's splashing in a stream, or climbing a tree, or having a snail race, or setting an ambush, just giving ideas, inspiration for people to get outdoors and just
I think
have a bit of fun together.
I think just the idea of sort of not having to go away for a whole weekend and not having to do a big day out, but just sort of seizing the opportunity as it comes up. What do you think in terms of I think there are different kind of, as a parent, when you're in that sort of baby hole bit, which is a different bit where you're sort of staring at a tree like one strapped to you and you've sort of got coffee all down you, that's it's a kind of different zone. So I get, do your the adventure packs that you have, do they kind of, are they split up by kind of ages, or is it just kind of general ideas for?
Well, I mean, for me, so I created these little adventure guides. I'm in my study, so I've got one here. They're just very simple fold-out guides. This one's the Wilderness Warrior one, and I created them around this mini adventure idea, thinking, you know, whatever stage you're in, even if you're in the baby tunnel, or you've got a baby and a toddler and you just want something simple to do, or if you're in that kind of mid-primary section, or if you, where mine are 8 and 10 now, just some little nudges for things to do so that they don't get bored and they don't, you know, start to kick off because they're bored. So these guys are just, you get 3 challenges per guide. So Wilderness Warrior is kind of, you know, first set up an ambush, then make a headdress, and then finally build a bow and arrow. And they're designed for primary age kids, of the whole range, because you know a lot of people do have more than one, or they want to try more than one adventure at a time, and it means some might just start with the first adventure, whereas others will progress on to the third adventure.
Nice.
So they're kind of an all-encompassing, but for all primary school kids. But again, just something simple that you can do wherever you are without the pressure. I think often going outdoors has become synonymous with this sort of, we must have fun, we must go and do this, we must walk 10 miles, and therefore we are being outdoors and enjoying it. But the reality of having kids is it's not always like that. And I think we need to take the pressure off ourselves as parents and just say, A, we don't always have time to walk a 4-mile hike. Let's just go out and have a snippet of fun. And B, to recognise that despite all the Instagram wonderfulness and all that kind of filters we have of parenting and how great it is, some days are quite bad and some days it doesn't work out, and that's okay. It doesn't mean you're a failure, it doesn't mean it's all gone wrong and nobody likes being outdoors. It's just sometimes they roll over and fall in dog poo, and that's not, and it just means you go home, clear it up, start again the next time. What do you think
for your micro adventures? That's what, because I always think that's a really good idea, is kind of, we were talking about earlier about the school run, and because I just always feel like we're just never on time. Actually, we occasionally we are on time. I'm like, oh, this is amazing. But we cycle to school. My kids are a bit young to get up the hill on their own, so we cycle them. But I guess I did see something about your kind of on the way to school adventures, which I thought was quite good. If I could ever get my children out the house early enough to do that.
Yeah, for one, I mean, trying to get anywhere on time is just never going to happen. So we are always late for school. I've always been late for school, and that's fine. But I realised we were starting to get to the point when my youngest started school, there was a lot of the stress. It was like a pressure point of shouting and where's your bag and what do you mean your shoes there and one shoe's there and where's your water bottle, and it meant we all went on that school journey quite stressed, and effectively you're starting the day quite stressed. So I decided to draw a line under it and go, nope, this isn't how we're going to do it. So we actually started cycling every day to school. We've now cycled, bar the lockdowns, but I don't know, 3-4 years every day cycling to school, and cycling back most days, but then there's clubs and various things, and also walking to school once a day, so it's about 2.5 miles. And you'd think, well, hold on, aren't you just adding stress because you're adding time pressure? But for some reason, somehow just doing it has meant we get into this wonderful routine where we know we leave the house at 8 or 8:15, and everyone gets their ducks in a row because they want to cycle, they want to have that fun route down. So we've been doing that for that many years, and then I thought, well, do you know what, let's add an extra dimension. And now on a Friday we do the Friday school fun run, so we take more time and we're doing different routes to school, mostly biking but sometimes walking. Definitely not the most direct route to school, but off-road biking, getting some little jumps in there, playing on a rope swing, having hot chocolate, taking a thermos of hot chocolate and sitting and just enjoying that time of day. And you do leave earlier, but by the time we get to school, everyone's in a good mood, and it's just, I think, a great way to put them into school. They've burnt some energy, they're ready to learn. I think in an optimistic way. I don't know if that's true, but I
think that's the thing that I struggle with, is that balance between wanting to spend time and have a nice time with my children, but also having loads of stuff to do. And it is always that, actually I just need to, that's fine, I can send those emails later, and nothing will, doesn't really matter.
And I think there is a wider conversation to be had here, one with ourselves, to say, should I be sending that email now? Do I need to do that now? Or can I actually put that to one side and do something we're all going to enjoy? And secondly, I think there needs to be a conversation with employers about being able to let parents and guardians just take their kids to school, let them have that school run, and spend time. You can come back and work. I get back by 9, 9:10, and I work from then on, and I work hard because you have to, but I don't start working at 8. I just don't need to.
Yeah, it's
there
tricky.
has to be the work-life balance.
To balance that in with the commute as well. One thing that I was thinking about the other day is, because of a lot of what we do at Wild Strong is teaching adults to sort of be more confident with movement. So we're very lucky, we spend a lot of time outside, and our kids are kind of there because we're there, just kind of learning about how to sort of jump on and off stuff, or kind of wiggle under things. And it often gets me thinking about that difference between like taking your kids out on an adventure that's like, we're going to go and do this, and then because you've kind of built it up, they end up sort of being like, yeah, but what are we doing? And they want more structure from you because you kind of built it up. And the difference between that and then being like, here's the woods, off you trot. I'm going to be here doing my thing. You guys can do what you want. And I was. Do you have any sort of tips for people wanting to know about like unstructured play? I guess is what they what people call it.
With everything, there has to be a balance, and it's really important for the kids to have unstructured play for a number of reasons. One, to let their imaginations grow, so that a stick can suddenly become a weapon. They can do things with their imaginations that sadly we as adults can't do so well. So to give them the freedom to actually do that, and also to learn that we as parents are not their entertainers, like that there to fill their every day with a structured, organized activity and fun. They need to be able to do that themselves, and actually they need to get bored, even if that's just being at home. They need to know that being bored is okay, and therefore it's more encouragement for them to go and create something by themselves. But at the same time, one thing I've always struggled with as a parent, and this is sort of where GoW comes from, is standing in a playground and just watching the kids like run around on apparatus. I find it really boring. I can't do it, which is why we've never really done it. So I want to be able to go out and play with them as well, and I want to show them that I love doing what they're doing, and show enthusiasm for learning about trees and plants and for climbing trees. Because if the parents are totally stepping aside and letting them have their unstructured play, then all they're seeing from us is that the adults aren't really interested, and therefore, is there something more interesting? Is the phone more interesting, or whatever? So I think you need to find the balance of the two. And quite honestly, I think that a lot of it comes from us, because some days you feel like getting involved and other days you don't, and that's totally okay, as long as we don't feel any pressure to be always there splashing in puddles with them, or to always be standing back and letting them do it. I think you need to find a balance.
Do you think, we were talking about this earlier as well, about the kind of, there's that map, and I'll share it in the comments at the end, about the over 3 generations, the distance that an 8-year-old was allowed to travel without an adult. And I think I'm going to get my dates wrong, I think it was like the 40s is the first one, and the 8-year-old is allowed to travel about 8 miles on their own to go fishing down by a river, and it's in Sheffield somewhere. And then the next generation is sort of 3 or 4 miles, and then the next one is about somewhere between 500 meters and a mile. And it's really, when you look at it like that, you're like, oh, that's really shocking, because I think societally, I mean, it is thought to be sort of safer now than it was when my parents were growing up. But then I know from, we live semi-rurally, and just the cars on the small roads drive like crazy. Mm-hmm. And I think that would be my major worry. My kids are they're 6 and 4, but they're pretty sensible. And I just wouldn't. It's how do you get to that point where you're sort of like, actually you can off your trot. And also I have it as well with the tree climbing, because I feel like we do loads of climbing around within Wild Strong and getting adults to do that, and I'm really happy for my kids to do it, but I've been very shocked about how frightening I find it, and how much I have to sort of like bite my tongue and just sort of let them go within reason, in a kind of I think like
the ultimate question of being a parent now, isn't it? Is how much freedom do we give them? And I personally really struggle with it. You know, I'm very free with my kids. I want them to be independent. I need them to learn about risk, because they need to learn about risk. You know, if you never let them whistle a knife, how will they know about knife safety? Same with fire. So I'm very free with things like that. When it comes to letting them go on their own, I am doing it because mine are 8 and 10 and they need to be doing it, but I struggle with it personally. Again, I live rurally, the cars drive way too fast. The ultimate answer is that everyone just drives a bit slower, but you know, we can't all make people do that. So this is again speaking very personally, I'm letting them go that little bit further each time. My 8-year-old walked down to his friend's house yesterday, and I was totally cool with it, but I texted his mum saying, please let me know when he gets there. And that's fine. He won't know that I had that slight anxiety. But at the same time, my eldest one, who's 10, he'll be going to secondary school next year, and he wants to cycle to school on his own. And I'm debating this. I just don't know how I feel about it. And I think at some point I'm going to have to let the reins go and let him cycle. But I do find it difficult. The same with my 10-year-old, same with climbing trees. We've got a lovely tree house in our garden. It must be about, I don't know, 9 foot, 10 foot high. And they like to clamber up there and then build a zip wire and jump off it with their harness and their rope on. And I was letting them do it by themselves because I trust them. You know, they've got really good, sensible heads on them. But unfortunately, they just hadn't tied the knots quite tight enough. He jumped.
Oh my God.
Fell like a pancake. But you know what? He was fine. Little trip to A&E, little sling, no brakes, absolutely fine. But you know what? Next time he's going to check the ropes.
Yeah.
So I reckon it's a lesson in life.
Sort of knowing that. I guess what was I going to say? Sorry, I'm darting around all over the place. Back to your micro adventures. When you gave you were doing your talk at the outdoor expo, you were talking about little things. There's the school run, and then there are a few others. Do you want to just sort of go into those quickly, because I think they're quite nice, like and kind of how you got your kids outdoors from a very young age, even just in the garden and that kind of thing.
You know, when you do a talk and then you draw a line under it, and then it just goes in your way. We've done so. The whole point GoW West came about because as my kids got a bit older, I think they were, I don't know, maybe 3 and 5 when I set it up. I was talking to a lot of my friends about this concept of being outdoors with your kids and just having fun with them. And so many people said to me, you know what, we would love to be outdoors with the kids more often, but we don't have time. I don't know what to do. I can't afford it, which is the one that always blows my mind. I wouldn't know what to do, and the kids get bored and they moan, and I just can't be dealing with that. And I do totally get that. I completely understand, because you know, our lives are crazy. Family life is chaotic, and we have less free time available now than ever before. More distractions. There's screen time to deal with, kids of all ages and for grown-ups as well. So actually, I wanted to buck the trend on that. I wanted to push back and say, no, it is possible to get your kids out and to have fun with them. But I think some of the main ways to do it, whatever age they are, is making it habit is huge. Like, we have a dog, so walking the dog it's a daily activity. But I don't want it to be a chore. So we integrate fun into that. We'll do a different route. We'll go, let's just go down this footpath just to see where it goes, or let's hop off the footpath and wander up the stream instead of being on the footpath. So making it fun every time. Also having flexibility to change things. Like you say, like I said, it doesn't always work out. If it doesn't work out, then that's fine. Just head home and have a laugh about it. But we have, from a young age, started them out knowing that we go outdoors, and going outdoors is fun, and that builds up their resilience over time. So now my two, they don't really complain. We went on a on a walk on New Year's Day, which I was quite hungover, and the children had a really, really late night. And my short walk in the rain turned into something like 10 or 11 miles because I got us lost. But we had the best adventure. I was counting how far we were going, which I don't normally do, but they could track where we were, which they loved. And I had loads and loads of snacks, and that's really all you need with the kids. Loads of snacks.
Yeah, no, I do think,
and they'll
we
going.
definitely do a lot of snack bribery. I know that that's not what everyone does in parenting, but I find it works a treat.
Yeah.
Because
Energy.
your dawn
So
chorus ones, I thought was really good. I feel like my kids are now, maybe next year will be ready for the dawn. They don't always sleep, so I'm very reluctant to get them up earlier than I absolutely have to, but I feel like we are getting there. So I think you posted a while back about getting up for the dawn chorus, which I think is a really nice idea, and I feel like I would love that too if I could be bothered.
We both, we sunrise and sunset,
Sure.
because some are early birds and some aren't. But for me, the sunrise is a really special time of day, and that kind of March time is perfect because the sun is still rising quite late. Get up, set your alarms for say 5:30, whatever it might be. Again, take some hot chocolate because you've got to have the snack bribery, and head out before anyone else is awake and watch the sunrise and listen to the birds. And it's, for me personally, it's totally magical. I will sit there for 10 minutes and just enjoy that time. For the kids, again, what a way to start the day. They will sit there for 2 minutes and then they'll start wrestling, and that's absolutely fine because their adventure, they've had their mindful time and now they're having active time. But we come back and we're all absolutely buzzing. But then you go on the school day, and then by the evening they're knackered, but that's okay because they'll just go to sleep and sleep really, really well. But for them, it's such a wonderful thing to do in the morning. Or in the evening, to just head out and see the sunset. And you don't even need to plan it. If it's a nice evening and the sun's setting, just go, let's do it, out now, boom, 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 and then you're gone. So sometimes not planning things, just doing it in the spur of the moment is a really good idea.
I was thinking about for me, particularly in the baby hole bit, where you're not really, as a parent, you're sort of very tired and kind of it's all pretty hard. I remember thinking people have been sort of asking us recently if we can kind of provide something around like movement stuff that you can do with your kids. So we do these kind of adventure runs in the summer as part of our classes, but it was making me think more about sort of adventure walks, because we quite often do it as a family. Kind of, if we find a log, we'll do some balancing, but we'll all do it and trying to work on sort of vaulting or lifting things out of the way. I think it's quite a nice, now they're getting older and actually I can do quite a lot of things while I'm out in the woods with them. I've just graduated out of the bit where I'm just sort of staring at them with a coffee. Getting them to lead it as well, to the inspiration to say, hey, let's now lift up this log together, because having their input and their imagination would be amazing. How much they internalize as well with quite a short amount of time as well. My youngest was trying to teach me how to do a Turkish get up yesterday. I don't think he really knows what it is, but fantastic. But one thing I was going to say about, so you live rurally, I live rurally, and it's very easy to get the kids out because basically out all the time anyway. Within the urban setting, there are a couple of, so I was talking about Playing Out, which is a community interest company in Bristol. I think they do really good things about sort of, I think what they do is that they work together to kind of occasionally close off the street at certain times of day so that kids can kind of do wide games and play football and stuff on the streets, which I think is amazing. But within, like, if you were living in a city, trying to get that access to green space can be a bit tricky. And I guess what do you think would be a good sort of tips for like micro adventures within the city?
Yeah, there are loads that you can do, and being in the city has its own challenges, but quite frankly, so does being rural. Going into a park or even your garden and having a mini adventure really doesn't matter where you are. If you're setting up something like a snail race, which is great for a rainy day, you know, look anywhere, look in dark sheltered places and find your snails, and then you can set up a little relay race for the snails to do. So that doesn't, you can do that on the pavement anywhere, it doesn't really matter. Same with anything to do with sticks, because sticks are everywhere. In the park there's loads of sticks and they can become magic wands. I try and say magic wands with the boys, that they always become weapons, but I'm going to keep it with magic wands. That's more lovely.
Like semi-automatic.
One of them
yeah,
a machete. One of our mini adventures is creating a stick boggart. So I give a little bag of air dry clay, and you create a kind of creature on the end of a stick and decorate it with leaves and feathers and anything you find. So actually there is green space everywhere, even in urban settings. Just about being able to find it and then have the imagination to use it. I've always said the best thing to do outdoors is welly wanging, where you wang your welly. You've got to flick or throw your welly as far as possible. And all you need for that is a bit of open space, whether it's a playing field, a park or a garden, whatever it might be. Or if you're closing streets down, wang your welly on the street, you know,
feel like
try not to get any windows.
might break a window.
But, well, I don't think so. But it's about, a big part of the challenge is actually in finding the ideas and going and doing it, rather than saying, well, we live in a city, there's nothing to do, let's stay indoors. It's totally untrue. You can go out, you can hear birds, you can see the sunrise wherever you are. So that shouldn't be the barrier to you going outside and spending time with kids.
And then I realise we've only got a couple of minutes left, but have you got any resources or accounts that you follow that you think are really useful that we can point people in the direction of? I'll put them in the comments as well when we post this.
Yeah. I mean, some of my favourite Instagram accounts, you know, people like the Reluctant Explorers, Atkin and Co. I think are absolutely fantastic for their foraging tips. But for me, there are two people that have been a huge inspiration, and it's not necessarily in the outdoor family space. It's more for me personally in finding inspiration to then recreate adventures with my kids. And one is Al Humphreys, who I think is wonderful, and his micro adventures set, which is all about adventuring from 5 to 9. So yes, work 9 to 5, but 5 to 9 you have this whole bucket of time to create adventure, and it's just about how we use our time more flexibly to have fun outdoors. And the other is Rob McFarlane, who's a nature writer, and the way he writes is just beautiful, and it really can help you stay in touch with nature and embrace the nature that's around you, and I think then pass that enthusiasm and love onto the children.
Actually, nice segue, because my sister wrote the music for an adaptation of Robert McFarlane and Jackie Morris's book, The Lost Spells. So there we go. If you want to see the play, it's on in that really beautiful outdoor theatre in the Lake District for the next week. Been in London, it's now going out there, but it was really beautiful. The music's amazing. She did it with Will Dollard, and it's a beautiful story about a little girl that, I don't know if you've read the book, but a little girl that loses her name and she has to kind of go and find it with the help of all these different wild animals. And
wonderful.
In fact, I've got the poster right here.
Amazing.
There it is. I'll put it in the links. I was going to add to that, I think the Curious School of the Wild do really interesting stuff. I don't know if you follow them. They always have loads of good ideas. All the elements, that's about sort of inclusion and diversity outdoors. It's more sort of adults, but there are some I guess some of their members that work with kids. There we go.
And there
well, nice.
This is one of the books of all time, the book by Joe Schofield and Fiona Danks, and it's just a million things you can do with sticks.
Let's put it. Let's make a list and then I think the last one I was going to say was 1,000 hours outside. Again, it's really worth following. I think the podcast that goes with that is really good. They've got some really good ideas around. Well, they just constantly have interesting people, but the one that keeps resonating with me is like allowing your kids to be outside and bored, and therefore making their own adventures, which I think is great. Cool. Well, thank you so much. Have you got anything else you want to add?
I think that's it. But always, for anyone, if you have any questions, any thoughts, any inspiration for adventures, please just get in contact via my website, which is www.gowls.co.uk. And I'm always happy to chat.
Thanks, Georgie. And we'll put all those links, I guess, in the comments. I can never quite remember how the live bit works, but I think there's a bunch of places. We'll shove it in the comments and then people will have access to it. Cool. All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.
Oh.